let's get into Wisconsin versus Miami. And take it away, Steve. What do we got?
Yeah, so it's been kind of slow news in the Big Ten. And this isn't necessarily breaking news, as everyone knows. This came out. This is a story that everyone's been following. Came out last week. I'm going to start with an article from Ross Dellinger, published on the 20th, because for us, he is the reporter of record when it comes to significant college football happenings. So, as Ross writes on June 20th, in a landmark moment in college athletics, one university has filed suit against another for the poaching of a college football player under contract. The University of Wisconsin and its NIL collective jointly filed a complaint in state court on Friday against the University of Miami over alleged tortious interference. That's always a word that gives me trouble. Tortious interference.
I want to say torturous.
Yeah, me too. It's kind of...
Good job.
Yeah. So, according to documents obtained by Yahoo Sports. So, Ross is calling it a first of its kind and perhaps a precedent-setting move, which I agree. Wisconsin is seeking unspecified financial damages and a declaratory judgment deeming UM's actions as wrongful for interfering with a binding revenue share contract between the University of Wisconsin and Xavier Lucas, a former defensive back who left the program in January to compete at Miami. It was a groundbreaking decision in which Lucas transferred without even entering the portal. So that it called into question even the validity of the portal.
Yeah.
So again, why this could be a big precedent-setting move.
Yeah.
And he signed a contract, and he had already signed a contract with the Badgers and their collective. The lawsuit details what transpired in the winter among these parties: Wisconsin, Miami, and Lucas. Wisconsin claims that Miami communicated with Lucas knowingly, inducing him, despite knowing that he had already entered into a contract with their school, something it terms as intentional interference that was not justified or privileged and caused Lucas to breach his contract. It's worth pointing out here, the university is not bringing any legal action against Lucas. This is just against Miami for their interference causing him to breach the contract.
Right.
Miami interfered. So this is their statement in here in the suit. Miami interfered with UW-Madison's relationship with student athlete A, which is Lucas, by making impermissible contact with him and engaging in tampering. So right there, they're putting out there tampering.
Right.
Hugely important word. Wisconsin did release a statement to Yahoo Sports on Friday saying that it had reluctantly filed a suit and it is committed to ensuring integrity and fundamental fairness in the evolving landscape of college athletics. It is also very important to note that the Big Ten is publicly supporting the suit against Miami. There's some speculation that if it comes to it, they may even get involved financially supporting this suit. And the Big Ten statement is, we stand by our position that respecting and enforcing the contractual obligations is essential to maintaining a level playing field. In addition to our legal action, we will continue to be proactive to protect the interests of our student athletes, our programs, and the broader collegiate athletics community. So the article goes on to really just, give a blow-by-blow of what happened. He was at Wisconsin. He was a student there. He was enrolled. He had signed a contract. He played, practiced and played for them. He transfers between December and January without entering the portal. Basically, as kind of like a big surprise, shows up. I'm at Miami. I've transferred there. And we're there. So the suit alleges that Miami had multiple impermissible contacts with Lucas during December and January. That included, and I wanted to highlight this, a Miami coach and a prominent Miami alum, so a booster, visiting Lucas's home in December with a compensation commitment for him to leave Madison. The offer was more lucrative than the one Wisconsin had made. So this isn't a scenario where, he left and he was looking for a new home. This is where they came to him basically soliciting him with a financial package that was more lucrative. So I have just kind of a couple thoughts that I want to give now that I've read the article. I have a couple thoughts that I want to give, and then I want to see what your thoughts are, and I think we'll have a pretty good discussion.
Sure.
So first of all, I agree with Ross. I think this is potentially precedent setting. I think it's huge, especially in, now that we have the House settlement, we have this college football commission. We're starting to see structure. We're seeing some movement with maybe some legislation potentially. But I think this was a very important part where we're basically, where a school is actually filing suit, in a court of law for this tampering. Because I think in order to stop the tampering and stop all this thing, it's going to take multi-factors. It's going to need rules by the NCAA.
Right.
It's going to need maybe new laws and regulations by Congress and a precedent here. If you do this, you're going to get slammed. Right. And so I think it's a huge thing. And like you and I were talking off air, and you made a great point. You said, people have been moaning and groaning and complaining about this, saying that it's happened, but no one's really put up or shut up. And finally we have a school that's saying, we're going to put this on paper. We're going to make a legal precedent. We are going to put our cards on the table, and we're asking a court to basically say, University of Miami, what you're doing is wrong and illegal. And you owe damages to the University of Wisconsin. You're interfering with their, with a contract that they have with someone else. So I think it's fairly significant. Now, I did reach out to a couple of my Big Ten contacts just to see what the, what the words were, kind of floating around, what people's reactions were.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of speculation on Twitter, about, this was. Basically, this signaled that Miami, wasn't a target for the Big Ten, all this kind of stuff. So what I was told was that the Big Ten support of this was rather intentional. They have wanted one of these suits for a while.
Okay.
A lot of the Big Ten schools feel like there are certain culprits, repeat offenders, that do this often. Miami obviously is one. I think you could throw out like Texas A&M. There's other schools specifically down south that have that booster culture that have had it our entire lives. I mean, we've been hearing Miami get in trouble for boosters throwing money around our entire lives. So they wanted to kind of pick a school. I think people are jumping way too far to conclusions to say this means Miami. Because of the lawsuit, it means that Miami is never coming to the Big Ten.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. We talked about this. Miami was not a primary target of the Big Ten anyways.
Right.
Their primary target is Florida State. And, Miami, could they potentially be a team that the Big Ten would look at? Yes. They have some things, AAU membership. Yeah. But there are a lot of other things. They're a smaller private university. They don't necessarily fit the profile. Well, what I was told was that this was intentional because, A, they are one of those repeat offenders, a known offender. Okay, but also there is some politics involved. Okay. What I was told of is if this was a prominent SEC program, which there are some cases of prominent SEC programs maybe doing some tampering, that maybe the Big Ten wouldn't be so vocal in its support because they're trying to make nice with the SEC right now. They're trying to, so there is a little bit of that politics involved, but I think that people are jumping way too big of conclusions as far as Big Ten expansion targets. So what do you, that's a lot, put a lot out there. I have some more thoughts, but I'm interested to see what your thoughts are.
A couple things. I'm going to start out quoting one of the most famous Americans here over the past decade, that being Lizzo.
Oh, okay.
It's about damn time.
Okay,
That's what I have to say about that. It's about damn time we have one of these. And I don't care who it is against who it is. As you said, there's different cultures around conferences, around regions, however you want to put that. It doesn't matter. But to your point of the Big Ten has a culture of doing things one way, dare I say maybe more above board, and having...
and that doesn't mean you're not saying the Big Ten's never participated in this.
I'm broad brushing. I'm very broad brushing. I mean, I guarantee you we're going to have a commenter that says, oh, remember when you da-da-da. Fine. Broad brush. And there's a broad brush culture of other shenanigans. I mean, you brought it up, and we all know Miami's been kind of in the news, or at least under the table,
South
doing dealings,
Florida,
and
Texas, certain areas.
Everybody knows it. So again, the culture differences, and that speaks to why the Big Ten is being vocal against maybe someone else that the culture's different.
Yes.
But again, it's about damn time. We have, and not only, you mentioned you've got to have the enforcement of it. You've got to have, again, what are you going to allow? What are you going to not allow? And you got to have penalties because up until now, it's just been, frankly,
free for all.
It's been free for all, and it's just coaches saying, "Oh, I know," and hell, most of the coaches don't even say who.
Yes,
my kids have been tampered with. Well, you might as well not even say that because it doesn't mean anything.
Yes,
and.
Just sounds like sour grapes.
It sounds like sour grapes. I'm not saying it's not happening. We all know it's happening.
Yep.
But, it's kind of like anonymous sources, and I'm one to talk because all I do is use anonymous sources. But, if we're going to move it forward, if we actually care about tampering, let's do something about it. And this is finally, in my opinion, doing something about it.
I want to share a quick little story here. When NIL kind of first got started, not too long after the transfer portal they all kind of happened around the same time. People kind of mixed them together. So not too long after that, I actually got a screenshot from one of my Penn State contacts that showed a player of theirs, a Penn State player. He's not there now. He actually just left.
Okay.
And transferred. He shared this with the compliance division of Penn State, which normally kids don't do. They just tell, like, my buddy's like, oh, this or that.
Yeah.
Well, it was a screenshot of a text, and I'm going to name the school, Texas A&M. It wasn't one of their staff members. It was someone with, like, a collective or whatever, offering 6 figures. Actually, no, excuse me, 7, potentially up to 7 figures, potentially up to $1 million to transfer from Penn State to Texas A&M. So it's something that's been going on, and this is while this happened while he was, at Penn State practicing, playing.
Not in the portal, probably not even vocal about leaving Penn State. He's a Penn State player.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's something that's been going on. Like you said, coaches know about it. They've been complaining about it publicly, but this is the first time we see someone doing something. Now, there's a couple things that I think are really, really significant. One is the potential precedent setting that we talked about. Another part of this that I find really interesting is they did not name the player in the suit. They're not taking any action against the player. And I think that's very intentional, that they're showing, like, hey, other school, we're going to come at you and settle this as financial differences between us. Instead of going after the player, because these kids, they're 19 years old. They're being offered, just, millions of dollars. When you were 19, right, you're going to college, you're getting the financial realm, okay? If you would have had 3 or 4 companies that were coming to you, hey, we want you to come here and we're going to pay you $1 million. And the next company, no, we want you to come here and we're going to pay you $2.5 million. That would have been hard for you, your 19-year-old brain to say, what should I do in this situation? So I think it is significant that they're going after basically each other. The grown-ups, like, these schools should be grown-ups. They have compliance teams, they have attorneys.
Steve,
exactly. So it's grown-ups going after grown-ups instead of going after the kids. But also, I think there's a strategic purpose to that, because I do think there would be some worry that if they tried to sue the kid, that the entire process of the transfer portal and all of that maybe wouldn't hold up in court as far as the relationship between the players and the team. So I think there was some legal strategy there as well.
Well, DJ's given us a super chat, so I want to get to him, and then I do have another question for you. But I do want to give a shout out to Terry Fox, one of our legal dwellers, lawyer dwellers, whatever you want to call that. He gives us the name or the pronunciation of Tortius. He says Tortius.
Tortius.
It's not Tortius. So I was wrong.
Okay.
Tortius.
Yeah.
Be that as it may, let's talk about DJ. How is a contract being broken? He can still do NIL obligations for the NIL agreement. Question mark.
So I've seen some of these. I think in this case, David is taking the pay for play a little too literal, and I've seen some of these. I've seen the text of some of the deals with the collectives and players. You can't pay them for play. You can't say, like, you have to play in all these 12 games or whatever. If a player goes out and gets injured in the 4th game, you have to continue to pay them their contracts as long as they do their appearances or whatever they're supposed to do. However, you can put stipulations, and I've seen them, they're in there, that they have to be on the team. They have to be a member of the roster participating with the team. They may not even play.
Sure.
Their obligations might be going to media, riding the bus here, going to work out. But I have seen there just where they have to be a member of the team and fulfilling their obligations to the program.
Okay, all right. I want to hit some, just look and see what some dwellers are asking, and then I have a question. Going back to our beaver discussion, beavers build habitats, according to Mark Edwards. So you learn all kinds of things here on the Big Mountain. And then I saw Immaculate was in. He just said hi. He has a lot of work to do, so he popped right back out. I see GBR saying, glad for the lawsuit. This will help limit poaching. Let's see what else. Whoa, see, we get that big jump, Steve. That's what happens when I'm way behind. Let's see what else we got here.
Do we have 2 super chats, or am I just?
Oh, we may.
Oh, okay. No.
No, it was the jump.
Oh, okay.
So let me. I'm going to offer you a question, and I'll kind of peruse this real quick.
Yeah.
So you kind of have mentioned how it's the adults kind of going after each other and letting the kid, if you will, go. Do you not think? This is just an opinion.
Yeah.
You don't think the athlete has any fault in this at all? Or what do you think the athlete... I know what Wisconsin is or isn't doing here, but let's bring that in. What do you think an athlete here... what fault could they, and what repercussions should they have?
So I think you kind of have to separate that into 2 questions. Whether if you're talking about the moral perspective, in my opinion, the way I was raised and how I've always grown up is when you commit to something, whether it's over a handshake, on paper or whatever, you live up to your commitments. I've tried to always live my life that way.
Sure.
So if one of my kids was being recruited, I would tell them, before you sign this deal, before you agree, before you tell this coach you're coming there to play for them, you have got to be 100% certain, because you are making a commitment to them and you have to live up to your word.
Sure.
But that's kind of a Pollyanna view of life, because that's just not how things happen. So the on the other side of that is what could be the potential legal ramifications.
And that was maybe more of what I was asking.
Yes. And so I think if this was just the collective suing the player, I think maybe they might have something like, okay, hey, you didn't perform these 4 appearances in Madison, Wisconsin for us, whatever. But because the school is getting involved, I think that there's way too much risk if the school tried to go after the player. This would go potentially, through federal court and say, well, you can't put any restrictions on the player. These restrictions are illegal. They are a breach of antitrust, laws, and that would just be another massive setback for them. So I think it's right now, because we don't have that legislation that puts it on paper, that codifies these restrictions, and we don't have an antitrust exemption for the NCAA or the schools or any of the organizations. Okay. I think it's just too dangerous right now legally for the schools to go after the players. Okay,
and I think that makes sense. Terry agrees. He says the player didn't do anything wrong.
It depends on legally moral.
I'm going more towards the legal aspect of it. But, I mean, ethics, we all have different moral, ethical standards, and you can draw the line wherever you guys like. And I don't really want to go down that route because, again, that's up to each individual. I think legally, from did he legally do anything wrong? You're basically saying where we are right now with the antitrust and the, he's an employee, or he's not an employee, but, he's open to doing that. I think that's probably where Terry's coming from as well.
Especially and it's important to make this stipulation, with the school being involved in the suit.
Yes.
If this was a collective or a... let's say Tesla was paying USC players to make appearances in Teslas, then and the kid transferred to Oklahoma, and Tesla's like, I didn't want you to be in Oklahoma, I want you to be in SoCal, they could have if it was just the company or a collective for breach of contract. But I think with the school being involved, it's just too risky of a legal move.
Well, I'm happy that we have a lawsuit. I think it's about damn time that we finally have one of these. Put up. Don't shut up and put up, and finally somebody is. And maybe this is the beginning of a lot, or maybe this is going to be a one-off. We're going to have to wait and see. I don't know. And there was an and, but I don't remember.
Well, and I mean, if we get into a situation where all, suddenly Miami has to, it gets declared in a court of law that they tampered, and now they have to pay money to, even if it's $1 million or so, it's not a huge amount of money, but the precedent of saying you tampered, a judge saying you tampered illegally, because then honestly the NCAA could use that as a, hey, we have a court of law saying you tampered,
yes,
and put ramifications on them. It's just, there's a whole lot of doors that could open,
right?